24th. Right, it's just coming up to 10:13 here on BBC Radio Solent. Now, new research reveals that cases of identity theft have doubled in the UK in the last 2 years. ID theft can potentially cost consumers thousands of pounds, affect a victim's mental health, their sleep, their ability to work. Well, founder of the personal finance and consumer website, Mrs. Mummy Penny, Lynn Beattie, knows all too well about this type of theft because it happened to her. And I asked her what did actually happen to her.
So yeah, I had a bit of a scary experience with identity fraud. So a random item turned up on my doorstep, delivered. It was a security camera, I think, and I hadn't ordered it, but no part of me thought that anything sort of dodgy was going on, that anything to do with my identity had happened. I just thought a mistake had happened. So I called up the company that it had come from, and they were like, oh yes, an account's been set up in your name and 8 things have been ordered, and they totaled like £3,000, and it was like a credit account that had been set up in my name. So and one thing had been sent to my house by accident.
How did they do that? So
it was actually quite simple. All they needed was my name, my address, and my date of birth. And because I'd always thought like ID theft, it's something that could never happen to me. So I'd been quite lax about sort of things I put online, like my date of birth was on my social media profiles and stuff. And it was my address. I have a company, so it was easy to get hold of my address. So they got hold of that. They made up her email address, made up her mobile number, and set up a credit account in my name. It was like a catalogue company. So it was right. Debt being run up in my name. Yeah. But it's just fortunate that they made a mistake and one of the items appeared on my doorstep, because otherwise I wouldn't have known. And that's the really worrying thing about ID fraud, is that it can go on for a while before you know, and then it maybe affects you when you're doing a credit application or a mortgage application, and you're like, oh, I don't understand what's happened, and then you're in a state of, I don't understand what to do to fix this.
How did it feel knowing that they had made another Lynn Beattie?
Yeah, it was really scary. I think the worst thing about it was that they had my address, and I didn't know if it was an individual person with a vendetta, or I didn't know if it was, an organised crime, where they get a list of 1,000 different names and addresses. So there was always a worry of could more accounts be set up in my name? Could they rock up at my house? So I actually then spent a lot of money on security devices to make my house as safe as possible. But I think that's the really worrying thing about ID fraud, is I didn't really know how to unpick it all and how to work out how to protect my identity in the future. So that's where a product like the Norton Identity Advisor Plus really helps with that kind of aftercare of getting you through, what happens when you've had your identity stolen, and how to sort of repair your credit rating and get everything out of your name again.
Have you managed to do that? Did you get your money back? Have you repaired your credit rating? Are you back on track?
Yeah, I got my money back. And the thing that's been really time consuming about it, though, is that I'm always very aware of my credit rating now. So every time a report comes through, and there's 3 different credit agencies you need to check as well. Every time a credit report comes through, I'm always checking it for anything erroneous. So that's what I'd absolutely say to people, is check that information, check that everything is recognisable on that, on your report, and there's nothing that isn't anything to do with you.
Identity theft doubled in the last year.
Yeah, it's doubled over the past couple of years, and it's just it feels so easy now. Like it might be like a text message you get through. It might be an Instagram message from an account that you think you recognise, but they've maybe changed like one character in the name. So it's just whenever any kind of links come through, even if you think you recognise the person it's come from, like, just be very wary and don't click on those kind of things.
You mentioned at the beginning that you had your date of birth and your details online. Was that a mistake? Are these the things that we should avoid? Listening to your story, what can we learn from you?
Do an online audit. Google yourself and see what comes up, and if like your address and your date of birth comes up. A really interesting one actually was my house details were on like Zoopla and those kind of websites that where you can sell your house from like years and years and years ago. So people could actually walk around my house. So I contacted all of them and got all my details removed from them.
Well, you've helped us so much this morning, I will say. So thank you so much for sharing your journey. And you know, I've learned a lot from you this morning. So thank you so much for your time, Lynn.
Thank you.
Lynn, founder of the personal finance and consumer website, Mrs. Mummy Penny, Lynn Beattie there. Wow, sharing her experience of identity theft. It's changed her. It would though, wouldn't it? If it's happened to you, I'm sure it's changed you. And, you know, I don't know, I've written down a few things that I've learned from this. Less information online about us, especially your date of birth.